Hello, everyone. Welcome into Pucks and Brews. I am your host, as always, Michael Shades Sparacino. I corrected myself this time, Liam.
There you
Alongside,
go.
as always, Liam, the Shellmaster Godimer. Liam, what's going on?
Well, you know, I'm in a somber mood, as are you, and we'll get to it. But the NHL playoffs are in full swing. It's been entertaining thus far, and ready for another episode of Pucks and Brews with your Shades.
Yes, sir. Better late than never. We couldn't record the last two nights, unfortunately, but hey, we're here now. Like I said, better late than never. One round done, 2 3/4 or 6 games to go if every series goes seven.
Right.
Welcome in everyone to episode 42 of Pucks and Brews, the Jackie Robinson episode. Even though I hate baseball, that's the first sports figure that came to mind, or first person that came to mind.
There you go. That's a good one.
Well, I mean, I work at a place that has a giant 42 in the main entrance. So,
Right. Well, yeah, City Field for sure.
yeah. Yes, I do work at City Field. No, I cannot get you free tickets. That wasn't directed towards you, Liam. That was directed towards every listener.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to get Braves tickets. That's what I'm trying to get.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, you do live in Georgia.
I do. When the Mets come to town, I'll have to see them.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Before we get to the main thing of the show, Daryl Sutter got fired by the Flames, and deservedly so, because just he fumbled the bag. Yeah.
Won the Jack Adams last year. Now
And
he's
then
fired.
won the Jack Adams, then fumbled the bag and got fired. And just how? It's like I don't even know if I could do that bad of a job, like that bad of a drop off.
Yeah, he fumbled the bag. For sure. And the
Yep.
Flames need a new voice in the locker room. They need somebody who's going to unlock what Jonathan Huberdeau can bring to the team because with no Matt Tkachuk and Jonathan Huberdeau with a down season, it was really tough for them.
Yeah, hey, like we said, like over the course of the offseason, they lost Gaudreau and Kachuk, and they were able to do phenomenal damage control for the circumstances they were given. And long story short, that team severely underachieved. And he was a main reason for it,
Right on.
which is strange because he had a lot of success last season coming in mid-season. So, see, that's just the thing. You never know year to year. Never know
Yeah,
season to season.
things can change very fast despite, how much success you have.
Yep, change very quickly they can. Well, like I said, Liam, we're a round into the playoffs already. Second round. As of we're recording, this is the third night of the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And well, obviously round one happened, 8 series, some of the best 2 weeks of the year, in my personal opinion, because you just have playoff hockey, and that's really all I care about during those 2 weeks. I don't even care about work. I go in and I do my job, but I don't care because my mind's on playoff hockey. So you want to start over in the West real quick?
Let's start in the West.
All right, as I try not to die from a massive toe cramp right now that came out of nowhere. So the Dallas Stars beat the Minnesota Wild in 6 games, which was not really surprising. Anything stand out to you that series?
No, I think we both had Dallas in six, I believe. It was a good series. I think Minnesota, you talk about fumbling the bag. They won game one after a tremendous start from Philip Gustafson, and then they inexplicably go to Marc-Andre Fleury in game two, and they had a chance to take a stranglehold in that series. Fleury didn't play well, and they were never able to recover after that. It's just this mindset change, just in all sports, not just hockey, just especially when playoff time comes around, is that when you have a 1-0 lead in a series, the team, just tends to sit back, who has the series lead, just because they felt like they got that one win on the road. That's all you need. You were looking for the split. For Minnesota, I thought they totally approached game two the wrong way, and it cost them the series. They had a chance there.
Yeah, but hey, Dallas, man, good team. They're
They
proven to be
are.
a good team, even though we'll get back to them in a few minutes. But in my opinion, the second biggest shock of the first round, the Seattle Kraken, man, took down the Avalanche in 7, which was a That was a kind of a wild game seven because you had the Avalanche tie it just to have the goal called off for offside. And honestly, that was some fun hockey to watch. That was a very awesome series to watch.
It was very fun, and of course, with the Seattle Kraken being in their second year of existence, it's easy for fans around the NHL, for teams rooting for teams that are not in the playoffs, to get behind a team like the Kraken, and that's kind of what I feel like has been happening. And they win in 7 games against the defending Stanley Cup champions. Good for them, and I wish them success in the second round and as they go onward in this postseason. But just quickly on the Avalanche, I mean, they had no Gabe Landeskog to start the playoffs. They had no Gabe Landeskog the entire postseason. They lose in round one. Valerie Nichushkin, we can gloss over it a little bit, but he had an
Yeah.
incident in a hotel room with a female that does not sound too good, and he kind of went MIA. And we have not seen or heard from Val Nichushkin. And say what you want about what happened off the ice. On the ice, he was a big reason why they won the Stanley Cup last year. And you remove Landeskog and you remove Nichushkin, and McCarr gets suspended for 1 game in that series, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So, sucks for Colorado. Can't win every year, but for Seattle, I mean, what a win, and so happy for them and the fans. I mean, we highlighted it earlier in the year, right, Shades, about how Seattle's turnaround was right there, and the question mark was always going to be the goaltending. And how about that for a storyline? Philip Grubauer against his old team that didn't re-sign him when he became an unrestricted free agent takes him down in Game 7 on the road. That's special. That's what hockey's all about.
Yeah, Philip Grubauer. Caps stardom. He goes 0-2 in the 2018 playoff run. Holtby comes in. They win a cup. Avalanche, they trade him. They win a cup, I think, the season after. So is this his kind of redemption story, so to speak?
Yeah,
That's
they
the
let
real
him
question.
go. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so the like I said, it's probably the second biggest surprise of the first round. The Kraken take down the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. And then we move on to the Vegas Golden Knights defeating the Winnipeg Jets in 5. Winnipeg had something going, and then Scheifele and Morrissey got hurt, and the Knights capitalized big time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of storylines with this series as well. And, it's really circled around Rick Bowness and this locker room. And, we talked about it in past episodes again, going back to almost a year ago about the Winnipeg Jets and their locker room issues. You point to players like Pierre-Luc Dubois. Is Mark Scheifele the leader that you want? Blake Wheeler got the C stripped from him prior to the start of this season. So there were a lot of question marks. I took Winnipeg in 7 because I thought the talent was there. But Shade, you hit it right on the head. Once Morrissey went down, once Scheifele went down, it was curtains. And it's a momentum thing in the playoffs. And Winnipeg won the first game of the series, and just like that, Vegas with 4 straight, and they win it in 5. So
Yep, and then now we move on to the last series of the Western Conference first round. Los Angeles Kings versus Edmonton Oilers, which was kind of what we expected, I guess.
yeah, it was a fun series. I mean, Edmonton is just lethal in the power play, and special teams really made the difference. LA, they had a good showing, but they end up going down. And I don't know where LA goes from here, to be honest, because last year, after their playoff run, after losing to the Oilers in the first round, they lost in 7 in the first round last year and 6 in the first round. This year, the Kings went out in the offseason and they made some big additions. They brought in Kevin Fiala. They kind of changed around their roster. They got Gavrikov and Korpisalo at the trade deadline. And to see that they were still far away from beating and overcoming this Oilers team, which in the Pacific Division in the next few years, you're going to have to go through Connor McDavid if you're the Los Angeles Kings. Where do you go? Where do you go from here? Because your big additions in the offseason at the trade deadline didn't move the needle enough. And I just don't know. I'd be not concerned if I were a Kings fan, but just wondering what direction they're necessarily heading in right now.
Yeah, but that's just the epitome of a series that two teams that match up well against each other in the playoffs, and it just leads to some pretty good hockey.
It was great hockey for sure. A lot of close games at the end there.
Yep, and Oilers advance in 6, so 1 game better than last year. And we move on to the Eastern Conference. Let's start off first. The Florida Panthers with arguably the upset of the playoffs. Actually, no, I take that back. Not arguably, the upset of the playoffs. Going against the all-time best regular season team ever, the 2022-2023 Boston Bruins, who finished with 65 wins, however many points with the overtime, the loser points that they ended up getting. And they had a 3-1 series lead against said Panthers. And by God, the Panthers won games 5 and 7 in overtime to take the series.
What a weird series this was, right? Because Florida took game one of the series, Boston tied it up, and then Florida lost both games at home. And you lose both games at home, to start the series, especially against a 65 winning record team like the Boston Bruins in the regular season. I mean, that was just a stunner. And like you said, 2 overtime wins towards the end of the series. Of course, game 7, Carter Verhaeghe. I mean, that was just unbelievable. But Boston, I think they kind of overachieved for as good of a season as they had. Just it was kind of one of those runs where everything went right for them, just every single position. They were getting outstanding play. They got Vezina play from Linus Ullmark, arguably similar play in Jeremy Swayman right behind him. The defensive core, Charlie McAvoy, really took a rise this year. We saw Hampus Lindholm as a Norris Trophy contender at the end of the season. We're going to see that come out in just a little bit as well. Their forward group had a lot of great depth on it. They add Tyler Bertuzzi at the trade deadline. They add Garnet Hathaway. They add Dmitry Orlov, Patrice Bergeron. David Krejci comes back on 1-year deals, and it just didn't work out in the end. And again, for Boston, there's a lot of questions heading in the offseason because you talk about 2 of the biggest players in their core, Krejci and Bergeron. That might be it on their careers. And if it is, I know a lot of people are going to look at recency bias and say, oh, the Bruins, they were the best team last year. They're going to be the best team this year. No, they lose those 2 big pieces down the middle. It might be time for a rebuild or a retool for this Bruins team. That's just how things can change quickly in the NHL. So, again, a historic season comes to an end. But, man, there is no other team, maybe outside of the Seattle Kraken, that is more of a bandwagon than the Florida Panthers right now after their first round upset.
Yeah, and I knew that OT winner was coming too because I was watching that game and I said seconds before the goal was scored. Well, Boston screwed that up on a zone exit, so ended up costing them. Carter Verhaeghe, the guy I drop in fantasy, wins the series for the Florida Panthers because of course he did. All right, moving on to the pick that I was spot on about. The Toronto Maple Leafs defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning to win their first series in 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Shades. I mean, we both got it, right? Both predicted Toronto in 6. That's a W. Not a lot of W's in this postseason for us, and we'll get to that, but that's certainly one of them. But Shades, I'll keep it short and sweet, and I want to know how you felt in that moment when the Maple Leafs won in overtime. I literally got goosebumps. I mean, as a hockey fan, like that's something that it's just absolutely insane when John Tavares got that lucky bounce off of the skate of Taylor Radish. I mean, literal goosebumps, and I'm not even a Maple Leafs fan. They made it to the second round for the first time since 2004. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I remember as soon as Tavares scored, I was like, oh my God, they actually scored.
And a great call by Brendan Burke, too, saying Tavares is the one. And quick shout out to John Tavares. Ends the Islanders' first round playoff drought a few years ago. And does it for the Maple Leafs just a few weeks ago. So congratulations to the Maple Leafs and John Tavares. I mean, they needed that one. We talked about it during previous episodes. Kyle Dubas's job was on the line. Sheldon Keefe, his job was on the line. And credit to Kyle Dubas. He went all in at the trade deadline and got every single piece he thought he needed to get over the hurdle. And he did.
Yep, he did. And I think he saved his job because of it.
He absolutely did. Even if they get swept by the Panthers here, I think he saved his job.
Same. And as always, John Cooper just comes off as a prick after the Lightning lose game 7 and game 6 and get sent home. And good for Toronto fans. Good for Toronto fans.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the injury list for the Lightning is always just ridiculous to hear after the playoffs. So that was, those 2 things happen. So moving on to the final quarter of the first round. We had the Carolina Hurricanes beat the New York Islanders in 6. I thought this was going to go 7, but Canes got the job done in 6. They were able to beat the Islanders without Svechnikov and Teravainen for all of the series, if I remember correctly.
Teravainen, I think, fractured his hand in game 2 on a
Okay,
slash. Or it
that
might have been
sounds about
game
right.
3. It was definitely early in the series. But yeah, Carolina wins it in 6. I mean, look, the Islanders, they were on the verge of taking the momentum back in that series. And if they scored in overtime in front of their fans in game 6, never know what would have happened in a game 7. But I certainly think it says a lot about the Carolina Hurricanes that they lost 2 of their top players. And, their star players still stepped up, the one that were still in the lineup. I mean, Sebastian Aho, the Hurricane Sebastian Aho had a great series.
I love how you
You
had to
know,
clarify that.
of course, Antti Ranta had a great series as well. And for the Islanders, never like to hate on the Islanders. I mean, I like to hate on the Islanders, but like to be unbiased here. Bo Horvat looked absolutely invisible. I think Barzell came back a little bit early, and there are just too many black holes on that Islanders lineup. I mean, Kyle Palmieri had a pretty good postseason for them, but Anders Lee, invisible. Josh Bailey got himself scratched. Oliver Wallstrom's been injured. Adam Pelech had the bad giveaway that led to Stastny's overtime winner in game 6 that won the series. And, never like to put any blame on the goaltender, and, especially one as good as Ilya Sorokin. But that last goal
No.
off his angle, just saying.
Yeah, that was a soft goal. I got to be honest. From an unbiased perspective, not a good goal to give up.
Listen, if Shesterkin gives up that goal, I say it's soft. So
Yeah.
unbiased.
Hey, we keep it straight here.
And we'll get to Shesterkin. So we'll get to him.
Yes, we will. But no, the main reason I picked the Hurricanes in the first place was because I thought they matched up well against the Islanders compared to some of the other options that were
I
available.
convinced you, Shades. In real time, I convinced you. Remember?
I think you did. Yes.
Yeah,
You
I think
actually,
people kind of.
yeah, you did. Now I
I
remember
did.
because didn't I originally say I was thinking Islanders in 7, but you talked me out of it?
Yes.
Good job. Good job. Cheers. Even though I don't have a coffee.
Cheers. I have nothing, but cheers to that for sure. Cheers
It's
to the
like,
Islanders getting eliminated.
yeah, seriously. It's 7:40 p.m. as the time we're recording, so I am not drinking coffee right now. I got to get up early and work all day tomorrow. Anyway, moving on to the
Fun.
last. What happened?
I just said that's fun.
Yeah, the grind, and I'm getting paid peanuts for it. So we're moving on to the final series of the first round, the Devils versus the Rangers. Now, remember how I said Seattle beating Colorado was the second biggest upset?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm staying true to that because I don't think going into the series, the Devils beating the Rangers was an over the top upset because you and me both talked glowingly about the Devils and how this wasn't going to be an easy series. So the fact that overall that the Rangers lost wasn't too shocking. It's just the fashion that it happened was inexcusable.
Right on. And, there's a lot of things I can say about this series. But the first thing I want to say is that it wasn't the Devils' top players outside of Jack Hughes. It wasn't the Devils' top players that won in this series. It was their bottom 6.
Yeah.
And their bottom 6 was excellent. And ever since they switched out Miles Wood and they brought in guys like Curtis Lazar and they brought in guys like Nathan Bastian and, they started to get speed on those third and fourth lines, it really caused havoc for the Rangers. And again, inexcusable. You win the first 2 games of the series, you lose both games at home. You have 2 chances to take a 3-1 stranglehold lead on the series at home against the Devils, and you can't get the job done. And I think that there was a little sneaking suspicion in every Rangers fan's mind that when Dougie Hamilton scored that overtime goal in Game 3, that was it. That was it. Because the momentum's all on the Devils' side. The Devils have played very, very well in the regular season and in the last couple of years at Madison Square Garden and on the road in general. The series is tied 2-2. You're going back to the Rock. You get shut out 4-0 by Akira Schmid. Credit to Lindy Ruff for making the goaltender switch. That's a big reason they won the series too. Vitek Vanacek, his confidence was shot. 10 goals in 2 games. You bring in Schmid. The Rangers tried to pinpoint the glove side a little bit too much. They had some success, but I think they became way too predictable. And, again, their offense just became mundane and boring. They weren't moving the puck well. The power play was non-existent. The Rangers' top players weren't there. Panarin, Another lackluster postseason run. Zibanejad, only 1 point.
No bueno.
You
The
know,
fourth line especially looked terrible at times.
yeah, you bring back Tyler Mott, and he just didn't make the difference he made last year. So, disappointing for sure. And VC, I think, took a big regression from where he was in the regular season as well.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but it wasn't until late in the series, but for a majority of that time, the kid line pretty non-existent as well. Keto really did nothing. He got his $4 million extension and kind of became a ghost. Capo Caco, I think, looked pretty good in games 6 and 7. And Alexi Lafreniere is going to take a lot of heat, and deservedly so. He's a #1 pick. And Shades, I mean, you tell me he had no impact on this series, Alexi
Nope.
Lafreniere.
None whatsoever. And I can honestly say that about multiple players on the Rangers. But
Should we give
credit
Rangers?
credit to Shesterkin though, because I mean he's the only reason the team was in the series. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, no, Shesterkin. Look, and it's weird because he said in his exit interview that next season's going to be a different Igor. Like, what does that mean? Like, you were great this year. Maybe he's going to have a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder. I think the only mistake.
Are we going to see 2021, 2022 Igor?
That would be nice. I mean, Igor was good this year, but 2021, 2022 Igor was a different animal. But I just want to point this out. Igor's goaltending, just fine. The one thing I was worried about with Igor, can't throw those punches at Meyer. That led to the power play goal by Hughes. That tied the game 1-1. Forced overtime. Dougie Hamilton wins the game 2-1. Momentum's in the hands of the Devils. They go on and win the series, win both games at the Garden. So just pointing that out there. It's those little things that can really make a difference. And it did.
Well, I have an unofficial official stat.
What do you got for me?
Well, before I get to that, let me get to the actual stat. Rangers have lost 2 straight playoff series in which they've gone up 2-0. And the unofficial official stat, when the last 2 years also, when they start chanting Igor's better, they go on to lose 8 of the next 9 games in the series.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion, and Devils fans would even agree that Igor is better than either of the goaltenders that they put out there in this series. So really no reason to do that. Ranger fans should just, keep quiet and don't jinx your team. Win the series first. Don't jinx your team. Or at least take a 3-0, 3-1 lead first.
Yes.
2-0 lead. It's the most dangerous lead in hockey.
Or 4-1 if you're the Maple Leafs or the Lightning this year, apparently. But yeah, no, I literally during game 3 when those chants start, during game 2 when those chants started, which is even more surprising because they were at Prudential. I literally heard the chants through my TV and went, "You idiots better shut the fuck up." Because that was the kiss of death last year, and it was the kiss of death this year. Yep, and credit to the Devils, though. Fast, hungry, youngish team, good veteran youth mix. Credit to Lindy Ruff for making the adjustments he needed to make. And I don't hate the Devils. I'll be completely honest with you. I hated more of the Rangers' performance in the series.
Yeah, I don't hate the Devils roster. A lot of respect for Jack Hughes. I mean, he's just
he looked phenomenal. He torched us.
He did. Nico Hischier, didn't put up a lot of points, but defensively, I mean, he shut down because Zibanejad pretty well, especially when the Devils were at home. And again, Jesper Brad didn't put up a lot of points, but he was there on the setup for Dougie Hamilton's OT winner. You look on the back end, Shades, I got to give credit to the Devils back end. John Marino, they trade 1-for-1 for Ty Smith. John Marino is their #1 guy outside of Dougie Hamilton or right alongside Dougie Hamilton. It's a very good first pairing. Don't bat an eye at that at all. Kevin Ball, he's got some good size on him. He's good. I noticed during the series that guy can play. So there's a lot of good depth on this team. They didn't even use Brendan Smith that much. They didn't use Luke Hughes at all, which is certainly scary. And they have Simon Nemec in the minor leagues too, who they drafted in within the top 3 within the last couple of years. So again, I don't hate the Devils either. A lot of respect for Lindy Ruff, who was a former assistant with the Rangers, not too long ago as well. They're going to be, a big team to get over.
Yeah.
But the Rangers, I think, I'm sure we'll get to this in a moment. I think the Rangers really need to shore up their 5v5 play because, you can't rely on the power play to win playoff games. And that worked last year, and that's great. But last year was last year. And you know what? When you're getting consistently outplayed 5-on-5 against a faster, younger team and a hungrier team for that matter, like the New Jersey Devils, that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, just ask the 2013 Maple Leafs because that was literally the story with that team, what you just said.
Yep.
But
Yep.
they won around, so congrats to them. So I was going to transition right into a rant here, but I'm going to save that for the end. So, like we said earlier in the episode, Liam, it is currently 7:49 p.m. on Thursday, May 4th. We are day 3 of the second round. 4 series going on. We got the Dallas Stars facing off against the Seattle Kraken, which game 1 was awesome.
Mhm. Yeah,
Did
no,
you see any
awesome.
of it? Because I've had to work so much the last week
That
and a
was
half.
Pavelski's 4 goals, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great series, and Kraken winning that game in overtime. This is a series that I didn't think I needed, but I now know that I needed, and it's definitely been very entertaining, and I'll keep a sharp eye on it later for
Yeah,
sure.
no, dude, this is one of those series where I mean, you have like a certain level of expectation, just like, okay, Stars have a good team. Seattle surprised in the first round. I think this will be an all right series. Then you put the game on and you're just like, wow, I am so glad I put this on. This has been an awesome game.
Well, you have two teams that play with speed. The Kraken are a great story. Of course, the goaltending advantage goes to Dallas, and I think the 5v5 play definitely on the defense goes to the Kraken. So I definitely think it's even. And imagine if the Seattle Kraken make it to the conference finals in their second year of existence. I mean, what a
Imagine
story!
if it's the Kraken versus the Knights. That I need to see.
Yeah, even though I want to see Edmonton in that spot, that would be a fun. That'd be a fun series.
Well, ever since my bracket went to hell and the Bruins lost to the Panthers, I'm just like, screw my bracket. I want what I want now.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, don't Jake Ottinger may have not had the strongest game because, 5 goals, but he's still going to play a major factor in that series. And I would not be surprised if Dallas ends up winning the series because I did predict them to win the series in 6 beforehand. If anybody who doesn't believe my predictions wants video proof, check out the Sports Hit List chirp and chat from this past Monday night. I made all my predictions there.
There you go.
So who did you have in this series before it started?
Before Seattle and Dallas.
Yeah,
It was tough for me, but I honestly went with Dallas in 6 games,
as did I.
just because of the goaltending. And I just think Dallas is a better team up front. But again, Seattle is just a team that's going to make you work for it. And
Yeah.
Dallas at times this season has kind of seemed complacent. Of course, they had that huge lead in the Central Division that they kind of squandered towards the end there. So look, we ended up facing Minnesota in the first round. So I think it's going to be a tough series for Dallas. I think Seattle wins game 1, but it doesn't change my prediction. I still think Dallas ends up the winner. Ottinger is just too good, in my
Yeah.
opinion, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Hey, I got it. Like I said, I'll give credit to Grubauer because he played a great series against the Avalanche. But as we've seen in recent years, the goalie who is not looked at as one of the better goalies in the league goes on a little bit of a run. And then I'm eyeing the 2020 Dallas Stars, 2021 Canadians. The goaltending did not hold up when they needed it most. So
Yeah,
that's the
I'm
main
with you.
reason why I went with Dallas in 6.
Hmm. For me too.
All right. Moving on.
Yep. Move on.
All right. So next up, you want to speak about 4 goal games. We have the Edmonton Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights, where this is insane. And I don't know if this has ever been done before, and we may never see this again. Back-to-back nights where a player on a team scores 4 goals in a playoff game and both teams lose.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would love to know when the last time that happened was.
That is an insane stat.
It is.
But hey, we go from Joe Pavelski 4 goals to Leon Draisaitl 4 goals, and both teams lose 5-4.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible. I never thought I would see something like that.
Very good storylines in this series too. I'm a little bit surprised that Vegas takes the 1-0 lead because they haven't really been great at home this season. Of course, Edmonton's power play lethal, and Vegas, of course, winning in five, winning in the most lopsided series of any of the first round series. They were not too good on the penalty kill, so that's when I was a little bit worried about how they were going to be able to control Edmonton on man advantage, and of course, Draisaitl taking advantage a couple of times on the power play in game number one, but also Jack Eichel and Connor McDavid against one another in the 2015 draft class in the 1-2 first playoff series against one another. Eichel seals the game, right? Did he score an empty net winner?
Yes,
I
he
believe
did.
he stripped McDavid and then scored the empty net winner in the defensive zone. So again, just a really fun series. I have Edmonton winning it. That's what I had before the series. I had Edmonton winning it in 6 games. And again, I'm going to stick with that.
If my bracket would have been perfect first round, I would have stayed with Edmonton. But like I said, as soon as one series got ruined, I'm just like, screw it, changing everything up.
Yep.
So I think I went with Vegas. I think I had them in 6. It may have been 5. I don't remember, to be perfectly honest with you, the exact number, but I did have Vegas because I looked at they dismantled the Jets had a weakness to prey on. The Knights dismantled it. And honestly, I still like the Vegas team better on paper. And how much trust do I have in both teams' goalie situations? To be honest, both kind of seem like a little bit of a wild card right now because I think Brossoit is starting for Vegas, which I'm not too familiar with him, but Skinner, I'll give him credit. He's been playing great this year, but Edmonton's goaltending situation has been a question mark for years now, probably since I started watching hockey. So that's always in the back of my mind going into any playoff series involving them. So again, a major reason why is for this series at least was the overall team on paper, which I think Vegas is superior to Edmonton's, even though I do like a lot of players on Edmonton. So
Yeah, I just look at Vegas and I just see a very deep team. That's what I see with the Knights. And, I don't know if I see a very deep team with Edmonton. Maybe one of the deeper teams and one of the deeper rosters that they've had over the last few years and over the
for
last
them,
few
yeah.
playoff runs for them. But again, also looking at the goaltending, like you mentioned, I like Stuart Skinner more than I like Warren Brossoit. Again, career backups can have their runs in the postseason. It happens. But
I just
Brossoit
listed
certainly
2
looked
off
really
earlier.
good. You did. Certainly looks really good in Winnipeg in the first round for the Knights. And, it's going to become a goaltending question if the Knights be able to get to if they struggle against the Oilers, because the Oilers are going to be able to put up a lot of goals. If Brossoit, gives up 5 or 6 and they don't get the goal scoring support that they got in game one, do they look at Logan Thompson? Do they look elsewhere? So look, it's going to be a very, very interesting series, but I just think Edmonton's star power is going to lead them to victory in the series. And I really like the coaching of Jay Woodcroft as well. And again, Edmonton was here last year, faced Calgary in round 2, took them down, made it to the conference final, and they want to push past that hump that they got to last year. So again, Vegas, they're a year removed from not making the playoffs. Are they ready for the grind of a Western Conference semifinal against a team like the Oilers? Again, like I keep mentioning, have been here before and have the 2 best players in the world.
Yeah, it's incredible last year how Edmonton went from dismantling Calgary to just getting annihilated by Colorado. That was fascinating.
Yep.
So I, I got a text in a group chat last night. You just never know what you're going to get with this team. And yeah, you really don't. So,
And they need a comeback after game 1. Tough loss.
yes. So you had Edmonton in 6,
I did.
and I had Vegas in 6. All right, differentiating. I like it. I like it. So we move over to the Eastern Conference where the Florida Panthers, with the upset of the playoffs so far, take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are going into their first second round playoff series since 2004. This is a very intriguing series, and in my opinion, the most intriguing series of the second round. What are your thoughts, Liam?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting series. Of course, Florida coming off of a
a shocker taking down the Boston Bruins, and Toronto coming off of a shocker winning a first round series, right? And again, this is two teams that have not made it past the second round in quite a while. I'm not sure whose streak is necessarily longer, but I think that they match up as far as how long of the time it's been since they've made it to the conference final, each of these teams. And I think Florida deserves a ton of credit. They did not have an easy regular season. They struggled during many points of the regular season, and they battled back thanks to some pretty good head coaching, and Matthew Tkachuk, who kind of single-handedly has taken this team in the playoffs and willed them to a conference semifinal matchup against the Maple Leafs. And for Toronto, I mean, I'm sure fans would be all right with just a first-round win because, it's been so long. But you really have a chance here to take the Eastern Conference because there's no Rangers, there's no Boston. The Devils are an inexperienced team. Carolina are without their two best players. So if you can beat Florida, you're arguably the best team in the Eastern Conference. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you can look, at a chance at a Stanley Cup because the Eastern Conference and Shades, let me know if you agree with me during the regular season. And in my opinion, the playoffs, been a better conference than the West. So I think Toronto would be favored to win a Stanley Cup if they were to be the team that comes out of the East. And it comes down to this series. And I think the game tonight, they're currently winning 2-1 at 8:11 Eastern time over Florida. So it's boding well, but they can't afford to go down 2-0 and take two home losses in the process.
No, I agree. And like I said, multiple times already, and I'll say it once again, we're recording on night 3 of second round playoff series action, and this is going to be up on day 4 of the second round. But yeah, dude, Toronto, in my personal opinion, went from a very good team who was going to beat the Lightning to all of a sudden they're my pick to win the cup now, which is saying a lot with
That's
who's
all
left.
they needed, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes a team like that, that's all you need. Just get over the hump. Of just the first round, and that's what it was for the Maple Leafs, and that can carry you onward in the postseason. And look, they've gotten really good goaltending out of Elias and Samsonov. That was the question mark, right, Chase? Coming out of the trade deadline, our episode and our playoff predictions, it was going to be if the Maple Leafs lost, it was going to be because of their goaltending. And even if they lose to Florida, I can't really say at this point it would be because of Samsonov. Yeah. So it's incredible. And we kind of, I underwrote Samsonov, because we all thought it was going to be Matt Murray. And it ended up being Samsonov, and he's really the number one guy. And on a 1-year prove-it deal after, his kind of, mid-tenure with the Washington Capitals, credit to him. He, good for him. And a tough market like Toronto, too.
Yeah, no, hey, I remember Brendan was saying he can't get past the Leafs goaltending as an argument that he picked the Lightning. And I'm just like, hey, with what's transpired, I can't really blame you. But remember what I also said about the Leafs going into the playoffs? They're going with They're going with 2 unproven goalies, even though Murray has a Stanley Cup. Let's be honest. Apparently Florida tied it up. Because I just got a text. So Murray has 2 cups, but hasn't done really anything of note since 2017. Samsonov is an unproven goalie hasn't ascended to the reins of a number 1 yet. And Tampa had all the injuries, sure, but this was the Leafs year. Like, so many things just lined up for them to win around that I could not go against them. And like I said, moving forward, hey, they finally got over that hump. Was game 1 against Florida a little bit of a letdown after what just happened? Yes. Was it shocking? No, not in the slightest, because we've seen that so many times before. But
right. Not just with the Leafs, with all teams.
Yeah. And in my personal opinion, Boston kind of beat themselves more than Florida beat them. Mm-hmm. So, hey, Sergei Bobrovsky has ended 2 record-breaking seasons in the first round, but I mean, how many times have we seen Sergei Bobrovsky flounder over the years? I think it's going to happen again.
I mean, right? He takes down the Tampa Bay Lightning in a sweep in 2019, loses to Boston in 6 in the next round.
Was it 6 or was it 5?
I think it was 6. Look it up, though, because I want to know.
Yeah, you know what? I am gonna look this up right now. I could have sworn it was 5, but yeah, hey, it's just like, I mean, Bobrovsky's a good goalie, but I mean, he has a lot of things going against him in terms of being ranked one of the top goalies in the world. There's a lot of things going against him. That's all I'm gonna say. NHL. I'm literally looking this up right now. 2019, the Boston Bruins beat the Columbus Blue Jackets in. That's not helping. Oh, it was 6. Okay, I thought it was 5. All right. All right. Well, you were right. You were right. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, Leafs are arguably the Cup favorite right now, the favorite to win the Cup, and yeah, this is a series that I may not really be able to watch much of until next week, which is unfortunate because work stinks, but we do what we got to do. And I think if I remember correctly, I had Toronto in 6 before the series started. What was your prediction?
Think I had Toronto in 7,
Toronto in 7, and I
but I would
wouldn't
have
have.
to look back at the record and see if that's accurate.
Yeah, I don't blame you because I mean, when have the Toronto Maple Leafs ever made anything easy in a playoff series since I started watching hockey 12 years ago?
Never, not once.
Yeah, no. So yeah. All right. So both got Toronto. You got them in 7. I got them in 6. And
Yep.
last but not least, the last second round playoff series, the New Jersey Devils against the Carolina Hurricanes. I think I'm just going to get this out of the way. I think I had the Devils in 5 before the series started, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I looked at it this way. The Hurricanes are down Andrei Svechnikov and Teuvo Teravainen, and the Devils are coming off of let's call it a flat out dominant performance against the Rangers in Game 7. Uh, a they're still the younger and faster team, arguably. I think younger. They're still the faster team. The question that I was going into the series is how are they going to match up against Carolina? Because in my opinion, look what happened with the Rangers in the bubble. Carolina killed them. And well, I mean, the physicality wasn't exactly there on the Rangers end to the extent that it was on the Hurricanes end when they played the Rangers in the bubble. But I think the Devils showed that, okay, this team might actually be legit. And Akira Schmid, let's give him credit. I mean, he played friggin' great in that Game 7. So the kid can play.
The kid can play. A little bit worried about his Game 1 against Carolina, to be honest with you. Of course, he gets pulled by Lindy Ruff in that game. And again, you were talking about it. I think you touched on it earlier, Shades. Carolina's style is so smothering that if you're not used to it and if you don't adjust in game, you'll lose. And the Islanders did a good job at it, and they still lost in 6. And I just saw a Devils team that was completely outmatched in Game 1. Very interested to see what happens in Game 2. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. No, this is a series I want to keep a close eye on because this is another intriguing series. Well,
because here's the thing. Can I say one thing? The Devils' top players outside of Jack Hughes, going back to the Rangers series, are not producing, and they cannot afford to be not producing against the Hurricanes team. If this Hurricanes team, without Teuvo Teravainen, without Andrei Svechnikov, without all these guys, are outscoring the Devils, who have all their guys like Bratt, like Heischer, like Mercer, like all these young guys healthy, it's not going to go well for New Jersey. So, they just got to stay on their heels. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that would be a recipe for disaster. But hey, all slumps have to come to an end at some point. The question becomes, is Jersey, are their main guys that didn't really produce points wise against the Rangers, are they going to show up on the score sheet? Are they going to start showing up?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, but hey, there's two good goalies here, and let's be honest, Schmidt proved that. I mean, if you get over reliant on his glove side, he's just going to start making some great saves. So, do you think I'm underestimating Carolina after that game one?
I do.
Or do you think that was just extremely uncharacteristic or one of those games?
I think you're underestimating Carolina a little bit. This team was really good. Going back to last year, this season as well. Yes, they're injured, but Rod Brindamore just plays a playoff style of hockey. And you know what, Jade? As much as I don't like to admit it, the Rangers were lucky to get past Carolina in round 2 last year.
I was saying that, dude. I've been saying that the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I never held back on my opinion about how the team played last year. Never held back. I don't care how far they got. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. And credit to you for that prediction.
Yeah. Anyway, the Devils, I have them in 5, or had them in 5. I might as well stick with it at this point. What did you have?
I had the Hurricanes in 6 games.
Hurricanes in 6. All right. I actually like that we're differing on 2 different series because we agree way too much on this podcast.
Yes, we do. But it's because we're smart hockey minds. And you know what? Let's just hope that we can go 1-1. Then we'll be good to
go. Yeah. Well, those are our thoughts so far on the second round playoff series and our predictions from prior to when the game started. And now it's time. Because I got.
Give me your rant, Shades.
Oh, Jesus Christ Almighty! How do you go up 2 games to nothing in the fashion that you did and lose in the fashion that you did? I mean, Jesus Christ. Okay, look, I understand the praise that Kreider's getting, but if I'm being perfectly honest with you, he had 1 good game all series, and that was Game 6. That was the only series where he was actually noticeable.
Games 1 and 2, he's pretty good.
I thought he was significantly better Game 6, but that's just my personal opinion. Also, the Devils, side note, the Devils I thought were a lot better in Game 1 than people were giving them credit for. But that's back to my rant. So, Zibanejad, he was slow start against the Penguins last year in the first round. This year, it seemed like he never got going, which is problematic. Tarasenko was like the only forward who I thought was actually good for the duration of the series, which, let's be honest here, wasn't exactly a high bar to clear with how the series transpired. Panarin completely no-showed, inexcusable. Trocheck was he was okay, I guess. He was kind of just there. Kane was brutal. Awful. You could clearly tell that he's not the player he once was. And I mean, hindsight is 2020 now, but that trade was a mistake. Let's call a spade for a spade here. That trade ended up being a massive mistake. Kidline, you and I both agree, just they took a major step backwards towards the end of the season. They had a couple games of resurgence towards the very end of the regular season, fell right back down to where they were. I agree with you. Kakko was the best out of the 3, but that line in general has to be a lot better. Games 1 and 2, I thought the 4th line was pretty good, and then they fell off just as bad as the entire team did. And to be perfectly honest with you, the first half of Game 6, they were the worst line on the team, arguably. And that's saying a lot. Second half of Game 6, they actually had a very good game from that point forward. But, I mean, just to go on the forward group now, in general, everything that could have went wrong. Nothing was clicking. The power play, which started hot in the series, from the second Game 3 started, went ice fucking cold. I think they were 1 for 14 going into Game 7, and that was not even because of a shot. That was because of Mika missing the net by a mile and luckily hitting Kreider's skate and having it luckily deflect in. I'm just being honest now. I've watched that replay so many times, still cannot determine whether Mikko was shooting towards the goal or looking for a Kreider deflection. Cannot tell. The defense. Mikkola was good. I will give him credit. Schneider, I thought he had a good series also. I'll give him some credit. I'll give that defense pairing some credit. Igor, as we all know, was fantastic all series. I don't put any of the blame on him. Now, the other four. Dear God. Dear Lord. Trouba. What the fuck? Dude. How can a guy be so good from one, like, under one coach and then just turn to a complete liability under the next coach? When you would think that the next coach would better suit his playing style. I do not understand. He was brutal all series. And the Timo Meier hit, too little, too late. You're the captain. Wake the fucking team up. Adam Fox, Game 7, picked the worst night to have arguably the worst game in a Rangers uniform that he's ever had. Miller was atrocious all series. I don't even know where to begin. He was just brutal. Like, everything was just awful. He was not clicking in any aspect. He cost himself a lot of money going into this offseason. And then Lindgren, I thought Lindgren wasn't horrendous. He also wasn't great. He was kind of just there. Not really the problem, but didn't really help anything. Yeah, so that's my rant on the entire forward group. What are your thoughts, Liam?
Well, you know what? That was a spirited rant, Shades, and I want to go on the same thing. Do the same thing that you did. Let me run through everybody, just like you did. Listen, Mika Zibanejad, invisible. Great two-way player, almost scored 40 goals this season. Not good enough. Just not good enough. Chris Kreider, I thought he had good first games 1 and 2 were pretty good. Game 6 were pretty good as well. Like you said, goal in Game 6, it was lucky. I'm not gonna lie. Personally, I think Zibanejad was trying to go glove side, and he just completely shanked the shot, and it went off Kreider and just off his knee and into the net. But you know, Kreider, not his best series, but I think he was one of the better Ranger forwards, and I think that's saying something. Going to the right side, Tarasenko. Tarasenko, I think, was the best Rangers forward, as you said. I'd like to bring him back, ideally. But, under the cap, I just don't think Tarasenko or Kane come back. But, maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. Panarin, just inexcusable. $11.75 million. And he hasn't been a playoff player. And he takes a lot of heat, and I think deservedly so. And Chris Drury was frustrated with Panarin last year after the playoffs. Just didn't think he produced enough in the Tampa Bay series. I can't imagine how Chris Drury feels with Panarin after this first-round exit because he was a big catalyst for why the Rangers' 5v5 offense just was pretty non-existent. Trocheck, I think, had a pretty decent series. I think Game 7 was one of his better games, but again, not great. Patrick Kane, I thought Kane was okay, to be honest. 6 points. Defensive liability, sure, he had some really bad giveaways, but I thought he got better as the series went on. And look, he was dealing with a hip issue. And I think everybody under the sun and every Ranger fan knew that. How much can you really expect when a player's playing at, maybe 45, 50%? Got to keep that in mind too. Third line, kid line, nothing. Kakko was good. Kakko's been pretty good all season. Lafreniere, non-existent. Heedle, pretty non-existent as well. Fourth line, again, they had their moments, but they were a liability most of the series. So, I'm with you. And, you need your fourth line, performing really well if you want to get out of the first round. And the Rangers didn't have a fourth line that was performing anywhere near the way that New Jersey's fourth line was playing or the way the fourth line was playing last year with, shockingly, some of the same participants on the fourth line, and Goudreau and Tyler Mott. The defense, I didn't think Trouba had that bad of a series, to be honest. He had some bad giveaways here and there. The Meier hit was too little, too late. You need to wake your team up a little bit earlier than that. I didn't think it was his worst series, but I didn't think he was great either. I think Keandre Miller was terrible. I thought Keandre Miller was terrible. I thought Adam Fox was terrible. I thought Ryan Lindgren was playing injured with his shoulder. I didn't think Braden Schneider was great. I think Mikkola took a regression from where he was in the regular season too. I just thought the Hall defense just got eaten up by a faster Devils team. And the goaltending Shesterkin was great, but that one blunder of taking that shot at Meyer, maybe cost the Rangers that Game 3 win. It was a really tight game at that point in the second period. Hughes scores that goal, goes to overtime, and you lose an OT. So Shesty was great, but he's got to keep his emotions in check. And Shade, shall we go to the man behind the bench?
1 second. I would just like to give credit to Yaroslav Halak, who did absolutely nothing wrong. I had to throw that one in there, but yeah, credit to Yaroslav Halak because he is the only player besides Igor that I was not mad at.
Right.
Now we can go on to the head coach. Dude, oh dear Lord.
Where do you stand?
Dude, Lindy Ruff made adjustments after Game 2. Gallant did nothing to counter those adjustments. You cannot happen. That cannot happen with the team that you have, with the aspirations that the team has, with what happened during the playoffs last season with the team making the conference final, where I've been saying this all year. I did not think the team was really that good last year, and they overachieved, and we clearly saw that this year. This one wasn't even hindsight is 2020. I know what I watched last year. I know what I watched this year. Last year was a team that severely overachieved. This year was a team that severely underachieved. It's incredible how that evened itself out from year to year. But how can you go into a playoff series after what happened last year? You're going against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champs last year. You go up 2-0. You look phenomenal those first two games. And then something along the lines in Game 3, a flip switches, and the series goes complete 180 from that point forward. This was almost a carbon copy of what happened against Tampa last year. Almost a carbon copy. Game 3, they looked good at some points, from what you said, because I missed all of regulation. They did not look good in overtime. That's what ended up costing them the game. Game 4, they were atrocious. Same thing happened last year. Game 5, again, just horrendous. Just horrendous hockey. Carbon copy of last year. Game 6, they finally woke up again after that power play goal, which is pretty much the only reason they woke up in general. If they don't score there, I don't know if they win that game. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And then the disgraceful Game 7 happened. And that Game 7, as soon as we were like 5 to 10 minutes into that game, I don't remember if I texted you or I texted somebody else, but I was just like, I am getting major Game 7 against Tampa from 2015 vibes. That's exactly what happened. You had a goalie playing his heart out, and you had a team that just did not show up. Now I'm going to bring this back to the head coach. 2 playoff series in a row where you go up 2-0. 2 playoff series in a row where you lose the series going up 2-0. 2 series in a row, go up 2-0, don't make any adjustments whatsoever that cost your team the series. Your best players were non-existent for 2 years in a row after going up 2-0 in a playoff series. Every single aspect of the Rangers game in games 4, 5, and 7 was just putrid. And we saw this throughout the course of the series, maybe except for Game 2, if I remember correctly, but we also saw this throughout the season as well. And going back to last season, this team does not start games on time. Part of your duties as a head coach is to get your players ready for a game, get them in the mentality to get their feet under them from the start of the game. You have to get them into that mindset. It is a mindset. He has continuously failed to do that for 2 straight years as a coach. And you have a team with arguably the most depth, the most stacked roster they've ever had. And you go out flaming out like that. Personally, I'm done with Gallant. He's too stubborn in his ways, and there are a bunch of guys on the team that legitimately looked better under David Quinn. I've talked about this with you before.
So you would fire him?
100%. After how the last 2 years in the playoffs flamed out, 100%.
Well, it's kind of hard to fire a coach after 200-plus point season, Shades. That's all I'll say. I agree with you. I think that the locker room needs a new voice, but I'm just saying it's a tough look if you're the Rangers and if you're James Dolan. But again, this was Dolan that, after the Tom Wilson incident, fired JD, fired Jeff Gordon in what was a very reactionary move. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Gallant getting removed is the case. But he seemed to be, kind of blindsided by the media, even that bringing that up as an option during the exit interview. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I don't know if you saw it, James, but Arthur Staple came out with an article in The Athletic a couple days ago that said that Gerard Gallant and Chris Drury had an altercation after the series ended. Or after Game 5, I believe. So, there is frustration mounting. So, yeah, we'll see.
Hey, I'm just gonna say, your best players were not your best players, and which is not only were they not the best players, they looked awful. But let's just be perfectly honest with you. And like I said, the only adjustments he makes is switching the lines around. That can only do so much. I mean, at what point do you have to switch up the system a little bit? At what point do you have to switch up the attacking strategies, the defending strategies? You don't see that.
It's just a 5v5 play, Shades. It's just not good enough.
No, it's not. And they're too reliant on their power play, which was a theme last year. And when the power play flamed out this year, you saw exactly what happened.
Yep. And, the power play was kind of the only thing keeping their scoring alive in last year's postseason, if you remember.
Oh, 100% remember. They were awful 5-on-5.
And then you add Tarasenko and you add Patrick Kane, and, it's just hard to find that chemistry,
Yep.
And I think it says a lot in regards to Gallant's system that Panarin and Kane got reunited and they still could not find anything. They weren't on a line together to start the playoffs. If you told me that when the Rangers got Kane, I would have called you crazy.
Yeah, I did hear about the argument/altercation that Gallant had with Drury. But I mean, hey, this is a little bit on Drury too, because Gallant is his hand-picked guy. And this has happened 2 years in a row in the playoffs where they flamed out like this. So I'm not saying that Drury is on the hot seat, but God forbid if something like this happens again next year, anything can happen with James Dolan as the owner of the team.
Well, on that note, let me ask you a question. What do you think about the rumors of Joel Quenneville possibly coming to New York?
That's a PR disaster waiting to happen.
All right.
Yeah, it's a PR disaster waiting to happen. But if you're asking me the question of who is the better coach, my answer is Quenneville. So, yeah. Do I think they do it? I think right now it's a 50-50. The Rangers have shown that they don't let political stuff and, things that happen behind the scenes and allegations like that, they don't factor that in too much to who they bring in, like coaching player wise and all that stuff, which, to be honest, I respect, because I don't give a shit about people's political views. So
just a quick note on Quenneville.
It was the Kyle Beach situation and all that.
Right. But the last time that he coached was in Florida.
Yes.
A couple years ago. And he led Florida to one of the most impressive records in the NHL that year. I believe it was 2019-20. I think he was like 47-23-4, something like that with that Panthers team. So, regardless of all the outside noise, guy knows how to coach.
He
and
does.
The guy coached number 10 pretty well back in Chicago in his early days. So just saying, makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100% makes sense. And he was able to coach the Blackhawks to 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years. I mean, yeah, you can have a stacked team, but the coaching still needs to be on par. And also, the only reason the Blackhawks fell off wasn't because of him. It was because their GM at the time, which I think was Stan Bowman, just made horrible move after horrible move after horrible move after horrible move after they won the cup in 2015. A coach can only do so much damage control when the general manager is an idiot. So
that is true. That is true.
That is very true. All right. Well, I think I've ranted myself out for the night.
Me as well.
You got anything to add?
No. Again, very interested to see what the Rangers offseason is going to look like. Again, a lot of restricted free agents, Keandre Miller and Alexi Lafreniere, the UFAs, Vladimir Tarasenko, Patrick Kane, and the head coaching, which is really the looming decision that Chris Drury has yet to make. And also, let's go Carolina.
Wow, you're actually rooting for Carolina. Wow, okay. I did not think I would hear those words come out of your mouth after last year.
Well, I moved to North Carolina.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So I'm kind of,
You've softened a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Easy to root against the Devils, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, they just beat us, so always. And they're in our division also. And, yeah, Marty Brodeur. Nah, Sean Avery did the right thing.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Oh, I still can't believe that's a thing. That is Sean Avery's the GOAT.
What a player.
So good. He was good.
Funny, he signed with the Orlando Solar Bears of the ECHL earlier last season. Got released after one day.
Jeez. Talk about a fall from grace. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Isn't the guy like 45 now?
He's pretty old.
Yeah. No, not everyone can be Jaromir Jagr.
No. That's why he's one of a kind.
This is hell yeah. The GOAT. Anyway, so this has been episode 42 of Pucks and Brews.
Oh, wait, real quick.
Oh, hit me.
You just said the GOAT. Can we just give credit to elite defenseman of the Florida Panthers, Mark Stahl, the GOAT, who is still in the playoffs and still shutting down teams' first lines.
So glad you brought that up. The GOAT, Mark Stahl, baby. For anybody listening who does not understand, I just randomly started calling Mark Stahl that when he was still a Ranger after he had a horrible season and everyone was shitting on him. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to start calling him the GOAT. And now I have you, Brendan, and like a couple other people in on this now, and we have a lot of fun with it.
Yes, we do. And now Mark Stahl will forever be the GOAT.
Yes. Never to change. Anyway, so as always, this has been Pucks and Brews, episode 42. I have been your host, Michael Shade Sparacino, alongside Liam the Chillmaster Godimer. And one thing I forgot to mention in the intro, the Jets got Aaron Rodgers. So, and I'm going to the home opener for the Jets, so I am very happy.
Oh, shit,
I am
nice.
very happy. Yes, that helped alleviate the pain of the Rangers losing. Who
are they playing?
Even if it was, 5 days later. The schedule hasn't been released yet. We're waiting for that. It should be next week.
Are you season ticket holder?
No.
Okay.
No. I know a few people who are, though.
That's cool, man. I mean, they're going to have a good year this year, and they just brought in Randall Cobb, too. So.
Yeah, I saw that. And the defense is still pretty stacked. And, yeah, Jets have a good team. And I'm looking forward to the season when we'll have an actual quarterback.
No love for Wilson, huh?
He was awful.
Yeah.
He was awful. But yeah, in the meantime, everybody enjoy some playoff hockey. And we plan to be back for after the second round to recap the second round and preview the conference finals. If Gerard Gallant ends up getting fired from the New York Rangers, we will be back with an episode about that. But in the meantime, I am going to try and sneak a run in right now and then edit this podcast and try not to go to bed at 2 a.m.
Well said.
Yeah, that's all I got. Any last words?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, everybody, follow, like, share, subscribe, Pucks and Brews. All of our socials are listed in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. It helps us out a lot. And like I said, follow us on our socials, and we will be back very soon. Hopefully, we can get the episode in before the conference final starts this time, but my schedule sucks. So goodbye, everyone.